Hi everybody, no new episode today because I was jet setting. I was living it up. I have a life so cool. I won't even talk about it. God damn it. Okay, whatever. I'm going to talk about my favorite books that I read this year, and I keep looking at my list and then being like, oh, actually, I wanted to include that one. God damn it. So I'm gonna actually just go through my whole list, and you'll get a little element of ASMR, and you're welcome. So we're gonna go from like number 10-ish. It might be 11 to number 1. So, number 10, The Day of the Locust by Nathaniel West. I read this with my boyfriend. It's this sort of 2-person book club. We both love, we live in LA. We both love classic Hollywood. We love looking into the history of this city. And so we also just more recently read in the same sort of vein, Ask the Dust by John Fonte. But I really preferred The Day of the Locust, which is about, if I remember correctly, because I did read this 6 months ago, is about an LA screenwriter in the 30s who is just really hung up on this girl named Faye Greener, who is wild, and she was really what made me love this book. She was such a fascinating character and someone I would just love as an actress to play one day. Next was from this podcast, was from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler by E.L. Konigsberg. I loved, this was episode 6 of the podcast, so you can go listen to it. It was with Yamini Nambi-Madam. But I just loved how much nuance and insight there was. I loved the character of Jamie. I loved the character of Claudia, of Mrs. Frankweiler. I just loved it. I loved it. And then one of the first books I read this year by one of my favorite authors of all time, The Liar's Gospel by Naomi Alderman. I had read her previously for her book The Power, which I read last year and was one of my favorite books of last year. She also wrote Disobedience, which was turned into the Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams gay Jewish women movie. Amazing movie. I have not read the novel though. And The Liar's Gospel is written from, it's about the crucifixion, written sort of from the perspectives of the various people around him. I know there was a third person in there that I can't remember, but the main sections were his mother, Mary, and then from Judas. And it was just gut-wrenching. Oh my God, it was so beautiful. It's such an interesting discussion. Mary's section about motherhood, about family, and Judas's section especially about faith. The one line I really remember is like, how dare you make me believe in something this strong? And then I think the next part of it is take it away. I was gonna pull out all my books for this and like read passages, but then I didn't feel like it. So on to the next one. Oh gosh, Blue Nights by Joan Didion is nonfiction. It is about, Joan Didion is on this list twice. She's one of my favorite authors. It's about the death of her daughter, and just gut-wrenching also, and profound and beautiful. Joan Didion is a phenomenal writer. Then, let's do New Animal by Ella Baxter, which I was sort of mixed on until the very end. I did read it super quickly. It is about, similarly, death. It's about a woman who works at a funeral parlor with her family. Her mother dies, and she flees to her estranged father's house and tries to enter the world of BDSM to ignore coping with her mother's death. And I fucking really love books about motherhood, as you can tell by this list. But I remember when I finished it, tears just streaming down my face. And what was next? What was I going to do next? Okay, these two, I read them back to back, and they feel very similar and connected, so they'll share a spot, which is Hangs a Man by Shirley Jackson and Jawbone by Monica Ojeda. I think I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. I'm doing my best. So Hangs a Man was the loose basis for the movie Shirley, which stars Elizabeth Moss and is directed by Josephine Decker, and one of my favorite movies ever. I think I watched it for the first time this year. Stunning film. And Hangs a Man is written from such an interesting perspective. It is about a young girl going to college for the first time who is haunted by certain events in her past. In the end, I think I do prefer the movie, but what I did not expect from Shirley Jackson, Queen of Horror, is that, at least to me, the ending read extremely hopeful and optimistic, and I loved that. And Jawbone is about a group of, it's about ravenous, rabid teen girl friendships, which we Georgia and I talked about in the very first episode of this podcast. It's such a fascinating concept. Jawbone is about these 4 girls who go to a private school who have this all-consuming sort of love for each other that is dark and twisted. And the book starts with one of the girls being abducted by their teacher, and the book also alternates between the teacher's perspective, who, guess what, just lost her mother, and it's just a great book. The next one, you guessed it, The Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins. We were supposed to record our Mockingjay episode today, but it's the end of the year. Scheduling is bonker balls, so that will be coming one day. We just recorded Boxcar Children yesterday, so really exciting stuff coming up. We're in the top 3. Are you ready? We're in the top 3. Number 3, Joan Didion's Play It As It Lays. What a book. So I got this copy from a little free library in my neighborhood, and it was covered with annotations that were hilarious because they were so bad. The opening line, I don't have it in front of me, but I think the opening line is like, "My name is Mariah." And the person wrote, "Her name is Mariah." But again, just a great book about it's about abortion. It takes place in LA. LA is obsessed with itself, rightly so, because it's such an odd place that, you know, has such a tremendous place in sort of the cultural minds of, I'm butchering the sentence, of the world. Devastating prose. It is fiction. So we've got 2 Jonies on here. And I found Slashing Towards Bethlehem a couple weeks ago in a little free library, and I felt like I struck gold. I also found Democracy by her a couple months ago, but the cover is falling off. So I don't have a copy of Play It As It Lays, and if you would like to send me one, I would love that. Thank you. Number 2, my favorite fiction book of the year, Trouble of the Saints by Elia Dawn Johnson. This is magical realism. It is set in Harlem in the 20s. It is about, it's about 3 people connected with the mob. It is in 3 sections, and the first two sections are written in first person, and the third is written in third person. I peed my pants when I got to that. It is about, it's about these 3 people interconnected with the mob and their magical powers. It's a lot cooler than it sounds, though, I promise you, because it deals with the legacy of slavery and racism in this country. It deals with all of the different forms and manifestations of love and how dirty and gritty and complicated it is, what it is to love someone so much you are willing to hurt yourself for it. It's a phenomenal book. And number one, I just finished it maybe 3 weeks ago, is Little Weirds by Jenny Slate. I have been a fan of Jenny Slate for a while. I know her as a comedian, and I did not expect this book. Like, I bought it because April Consolo, who is going to be our guest next week for Twilight, had recommended it to me, and April's one of my favorite people in the world. And this book is my Bible. I don't know how to explain it. It is so beautiful. It is so optimistic. It is so hopeful. The language is just gorgeous. It is delightful. It is insightful. I was sobbing at a lot of times. It is Jenny Slate went through a divorce and was reflecting on love, on relationships, on herself, on what it is to be a woman. It is a phenomenal book. Go get it, go get it, go get it. Hopefully today I'm going to finish Born by Jeff Vandermeer. I read his Southern Reach trilogy last year, which was Annihilation, Authority, and Acceptance. Phenomenal series. Just really, I like Born. I prefer those. But I did just I have like less than 20 pages left in this book, and I got to one of the big twists. There are a couple big twists. And then I think I'm either going to read Nora Ephron's I Feel Bad About My Neck or Mae West's memoir, Goodness Has Nothing to Do with It, or this book called Hide by Kirsten White that is a horror movie or a horror book that takes place inside an abandoned amusement park. And I am really oscillating right now between memoir and horror. And those feel very connected. All right, have a beautiful day. I love you. I'll see you next week. My name is Erin R. Bowles. The R stands for... Oh, God, don't say it, Erin. The R stands for rectum. Good night. Goodbye. I'm so sorry.